Друзья, переходим ко второй половине второго дня. Меня зовут Тимур Батыршин, со мной Андрей Шорин. Мы будем вести эту часть от программного комитета конференции. Следующий доклад у нас на английском языке, он рассчитан на ваше активное участие. Поэтому, пожалуйста, обязательно подключайтесь, задавайте вопросы голосом. Можете камеру включить, это даже хорошо. Если у вас проблемы с английским, задавайте, не можете задать по-английски, задавайте по-русски, мы ваш вопрос переведем. Лучше по-английски, по-русски тоже нормально. Если не хотите говорить голос, пишите в чат, докладчик видит ваш вопрос тоже.
И можно писать по-русски. Кроме того, скорее всего, прямо сейчас у вас микрофоны выключены, поэтому поднимайте руку. Когда вы нажмете на список участников, будет функционал «поднять руку». И тут всякие значки еще.
Хорошо. And the next speaker in our schedule is Sandeep Joshi. Sandeep has a long track of experience in technology. He is the author of Sustainable Agile Manifesto and DevOps Strategy Canvas, and he's going to share his experiences with you today. Dear friends, please welcome Sandeep Joshi. Hi, Sandeep. How are you doing today?
Hi. Thank you, Timur. I'm doing very well. I'm truly excited to be here. Thank you for introducing myself. A bit of background. I've been in this industry for around 20 years. My initial 12 years has been as part of truly technology roles, where I have grown from as a developer to CTO, managed some large programs as program managers. SQL Server was one of my products that I worked in Microsoft. Similarly, I have done various regional roles before moving into the transformation coaching aspects of things. From last 9 years, I've been involved in various different transformations, agile transformations, DevOps transformations, digital transformations, and so on and so forth. So today, I'm going to share with you around a tool that I have created, which is called DevOps Strategy Canvas. And this tool is a result of my research as well as my learning from last 8 years. Over 17 different engagements, transformation engagements that I have been working on with different clients, different industries, different domain. So I have tried to put together this tool because of multiple reasons. So the reasoning behind that is, number one, why do we really need a DevOps strategy? I think that's the first question we need to answer before we create a canvas. And the reason for creating a DevOps strategy is, in my experience, even today, if you go and talk to a particular person in an organization about what his understanding of DevOps is, he will give you an answer which might be very different than the other person next to him. So the more people you ask, you might get a number of different answers around what they understand in terms of what DevOps is. Some people say it's a culture, some people say it's tools, some people say it's about automation, and some people might say it's all of it. So first is getting that alignment is really, really important. The number two part, which as an industry we have been struggling, is because this has a so IT focused notion that when it comes to business people do not really understand why we need to do certain things. When we talk about DevOps, their understanding is very limited to, yes, we are creating a tool chain or we are creating this particular tool here, but why we are doing it and how does it help business objectives? That understanding somehow is missing, and not everybody can explain that in easier terms. So these two primary reasons basically drawn me to create a tool which can help every one of us to structure our thinking and to get through this. The third aspect I will share using a story, which is here. So what happens when we start with asking around DevOps, or when we propose a DevOps in an organization, what CXOs get sold with, right? So when a consulting organization or a particular IT salesperson goes and sells DevOps, what do they sell? They sell Nirvana state. They sell DevOps as a silver bullet, right? So yeah, if you do DevOps, you will get to Nirvana state very fast. We will automate everything, even whatever is already automated, we will make it fast. We'll make it, really, really fast. You will be able to release faster. You will be able to achieve X, Y, Z. And the CEO kind of, that's how it feels. I mean, based on the picture, that's how it feels when we start the DevOps initiatives in any company. So what happens once you sell this? You generally start with a pilot, right? So you say, yeah, let's do a DevOps pilot, 4 to 6 weeks. Look at where is the pain or the pain area. Let's do an automated CI, continuous integration. And then we demonstrate to everyone how we have improved your continuous integration process, how we have improved your overall build time, deployment time, and so on and so forth. So this is the time of highest excitement and the highest fun, where everybody is coming together to make it a success, to show that this can actually work. What happens after that, after you do the pilot? When you start to scale, that's when the fun disappears and the hardship starts. When you want to scale this to an enterprise level, you need to deal with your business stakeholders. You need to deal with the business leaders more than IT leaders, because that's where the roots of DevOps is. If you're trying to build a culture where you're changing the team structure, we are asking for cross-functional team, when you're asking for going beyond the organizational silos, that's where the rubber hits the road and your actual hardship starts. So main obstacles around improving this journey towards the scale is around slow decision making, conflicting departmental goals and priorities. For example, if you have a separate development or a delivery organization and separate operations organization, their KPIs are very different. One expect to release faster and one expect to slow the release. They are more towards stability. So this conflict of priority sometimes creates a lot of obstacles in terms of scaling DevOps. Risk-averse cultures and silo-based information. So these are some of the main obstacles that we see when it comes to scaling DevOps. Now, when I looked at all these different transformations, different aspects of what business is trying to achieve and what technology is trying to achieve with these DevOps transformations, I have kind of come up with 9 different elements that needed to be solved. And those 9 elements actually falls under 3 categories, right? So we need to be very specific about why we need a DevOps strategy and why this DevOps strategy is helping the organization. What is the current state of the organization and what it is solving? And then the third one is how, in terms of what elements of the strategy is focusing on the how part of the things. So the number one, when we talk about why, we have 2 aspects. One is challenges and then another one is business outcomes. So why we are doing this strategy? Because we are solving these challenges. And why we are having this strategy? Because we are looking at these business outcomes. As long as you can map these 2 things together, you get a clear alignment from the business leaders around, yes, this is why we need this strategy in place. Then when you go to the what part, that's where you will drive your operational value streams of work, how the work gets done. In other words, or simpler words, we also have a notion for this called flow of work. Then the second piece is drivers for DevOps. What are some of the drivers are there in the organization, or we will need in the organization to make this successful? What drivers we will call, or what drivers we have that will make this transformation successful? And then the last but not the least, and which is the major portion of is understanding our technology portfolio snapshot, where we are, what is our current technology state or state of our technology infrastructure, state of our technology application portfolio, where we are, what kind of technologies are there, what kind of tech stacks are there. So that's the what piece. The third one is around the how part, which is now we know where we are. The next part is what is my desired operational value stream? Where do I want to go? What kind of DevOps tool chains I would need to implement? What tools I need? What would be my metrics and measures? How would I know that I'm making progress and I'm making progress in the right direction? And last but not the least, what exact steps I need to take? What are the themes, or what is my backlog for DevOps? When I say, yes, I'm going to implement DevOps, or I'm going to scale DevOps from one pilot to all the other departments, what does it mean? So that's the 9 components that kind of, I call them as a key elements of the DevOps strategy. And once you have all of these elements, you can plot them on the canvas that helps you visualize all of this on one single page. So just to take you forward, what I would like to do is, let's understand and start with some of the challenges that you see in your environment right currently. And for that, we need to go to the mural link here. It's on the chat as well. Let me just quickly show you the chat window. Yeah, I have put it here. Andrew also put just now. Go to the mural, and what we need to do there is this. So on this mural, you will see this brainstorm section here. If you click on the link, I will be able to see you here. And in the challenges part, just help create, so just double click, you will be able to create a sticky note here and then type on it. So focus on the brainstorm area. I am looking for challenges that you guys are experiencing in your environment. Help write it down. You can also write in Russian or your own language. Andrew is here. He will be able to help us with translation. If you are not able to do double click, you can see this from here. You can also drag drop from here if you want. So what we are looking at is challenges. Let me just time box it. So I'll write start a timer for 3 minutes. Okay, so please go to this board and then put some of the challenges that you think are present in your environment for your DevOps strategy. What challenges are you seeing as part of your environment? Legacy applications, poor security management. Great, unfinished migration projects. You can double click anywhere. It will give you a sticky note there and then, and you can then start typing. Very nice. Okay, fair enough. Unsupported software, unfinished migration projects, legacy applications. We have 50 more seconds left. Compliance restrictions. Yes, definitely. Poor security management. This is interesting. Several contradictory technological stacks at once. Yes. Too much manual operations when scaling. Yes, absolutely. And only few people know the processes, right? So poor knowledge sharing practices. So knowledge is contained with some people only. Processes are oral. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's time is up. So thank you very much. I think these are really good, challenges, and these are very common challenges that we see in no matter which company you go to. Even the companies who have kind of mastered the art of DevOps, you might find that they are still not the perfect companies, or they have not mastered everything. They might have focused on certain priority areas. So let's go back to the slide deck, and then let's look at some of the common challenges. And most of the challenges you highlighted there usually will fall under one or the other category which you have here. So the first one is around culture of fixed everything, where you have fixed projects, fixed timelines, and everything is expected to be delivered in agile manner. So that's where you have contradictory, expectations, whereas you have everything fixed, but you are still expected to deliver iteratively. Culture of walls and handoffs. So the examples that I was talking about, when you have your development and operations as two separate teams, if they continue to maintain their status quo and walls in between them, what you get is just half-baked knowledge. And the part that we had on the mural board, where you have everything, the processes are manual or everything is oral, and only few people have that knowledge. And fear of failure, right? Lack of experimentation. So a lot of times we expect everything to be done right at the first time. And that expectation of, not the fear of failure, it also kind of limits the ability to innovate. The second pillar is automation, right? So lack of integration or automation. So I saw legacy technology or end of life or unsupported softwares. All those things basically, also limits our ability to integrate and automate. Then the second point is lack of trust on automation tools. So many business leaders sometimes, they do not trust on the automation tool as is, right? They still want to check and test. And then the lack of trust on quality and fear of incorrect deployment in production, right? So especially if you are already doing automation testing, you have your Sonar Cube to test your code quality, code coverage, or your code analysis tools in play. You have your security analysis in play, but then also, the trust from the business side or from our stakeholders are not there. So they still expect you to show everything before you actually deploy in production. So that lack of trust is also limits a lot of automation, and also limits the funding that is given to automation. Organizational culture. So conflicting KPIs. If I have a different testing unit, their KPIs is, if you set their KPIs in a way that promotes different behaviors, such as if I am my KPI is to report how many bugs I found on a day versus how many bugs I resolved on a day, then as a tester, I will try to find as many bugs as possible. And that is driving a wrong behavior, rather than how many bugs we resolve together as a team, if that is your KPI. So again, conflicting KPIs, a lot of organizations are still stuck with vanilla metrics or vanity metrics, which does not drive the right behavior. Then different policies or shadow IT practices. So many organizations, we see that, they have different IT small groups supporting different businesses, and they follow very different practice. So each department might have their own practice when it comes to releasing software, or when it comes to testing software, or when it comes to auditing certain things. So that also creates a challenge for scaling and creating a holistic strategy. And lack of multidisciplinary team, right? If you are not having a cross-functional team or multidisciplinary team, you will end up having a lot of dependency or bottlenecks in your overall flow. Vendor integration is another part, which is a common problem. So no tool to capture end-to-end view. So some organizations do not allow the vendor to onboard on their own tools. So they might be using a different instance of Jira. The vendors might be using a different instance of Jira or a code repository, or their CI pipeline, like Jenkins pipelines, are not shared. They might need to do it twice. So there is a lot of waste in managing two different flows of work for when it comes to vendors and enterprises. So that generally result into no single view of end-to-end process or end-to-end tracking. Lack of alignment and shared understanding, because the vendor KPI versus the organization's KPI might be different. And then the last but not the least is commercial and contracts. Like, so if you look at the contracts, it blocks value alignment because our contracts are written in such a way that promotes fixed scope, fixed deliverables versus iterative or incremental kind of deliverables. So it's a very, very driven by cost as opposed to value, or outputs as opposed to outcomes. So all these challenges that we saw just now is basically your common business challenges. So depending on whatever challenge you have, which you rightly pointed in the mural board, this goes in the challenges section. And then the next part we do once we identify this is we identify whether it is related to people or process or tools. Once you have that understanding, then you can address corresponding approach or solution for that. So moving forward, so are these the only challenges in an environment? The answer is no. What makes the transformation more difficult? So I call it a symptom of busy organization. So in any organization, when we have very many transformations happening at once. A lot of organizations are chasing and rushing towards transforming themselves. And at a given point in time, they might be having more than one transformation happening at one time. So, but what happens if when you have multiple transformations at one single time? You generally see conflicting or overlapping goals. You see command and control behaviors, because a lot of these transformations are still executed as a program with an end date in mind, as opposed to a continuous journey. Most of these transformations are featured on their own siloed metrics. So for example, if I talk about digital transformation, organizations generally have this KPI around how many applications digitized. But that is just a vanity metrics. How many applications digitized, it is just around tracking, okay, how many things we have digitized, but what value they are bringing after the digitization? Are the employees who are supporting those applications, they are able to use it? Are the customer able to use it? Those kind of value driven metrics generally are not used because they're really difficult to measure and track. So instead of business outcomes, we always track, and because it is easier, we always go on looking at metrics. And then because so many things are happening at once, everybody is so busy, everybody gets into this chaotic mode and with competing priorities. So these are all kind of, contributes to the challenges that we are talking about. And when we talk about why do we need to have a DevOps strategy, the why part of the strategy is because of all these things, all these challenges. Now, the second thing we talked about is the business outcomes, right? And one of the questions I always get is, what is the ROI of DevOps? So I used a very simple example here to show that what is, if you need to really use a CRUD method, right? Very, very simple method. For a 3 months or longer release cycle, right? The first ROI without DevOps, let's say you're not using DevOps, you have, based on various reports from the industry, whether you look at the state of DevOps from 2019 or 2020, or whether you look at the state of Agile from 2020, majority of the organizations, especially the bigger enterprises, they are having a 3 months or longer cycle, right? So release cycle. So if you consider a 3 months release cycle, usually for the 3 months when it is under the development period, there is no value created. And when I say no value created, because you only create value when you release to production. when the feature or the product reaches to the customer. If it is not in the hands of customer, it has no real value. Unless it goes to production and people are able to use it, users are able to use it, that's when it becomes really valuable. So assuming that in this example, if it is a 3 months release cycle, generally you will start your ROI from the 4th or 5th month. And that's what you see in the first graph. But as opposed to if you are using a consistent DevOps approach, you are having shorter release cycles. You might be releasing every 4 weeks or every month. And what that entails it, you are starting your ROI much earlier. Your benefits start to realize much earlier. You are able to reinvest that benefits that you are getting to make the product better. So it also, it yields two things. One is you are able to see the progress faster, you are able to release faster, and you are able to pivot faster. So it's very simple, but the business people generally understand this much faster than as opposed to if I'm just talking about test automation and then explaining why it is required. So if we go with this approach and then explain around why the value is created incrementally and much faster with DevOps, usually you will have a better year from your business stakeholders. Then when it comes to the goals, right? So yes, we know that ROI is much faster or much earlier in DevOps, but then what should be our goal? Now, when you define goal, you can define it in multiple ways. So one of the guidance that is available is from a State of DevOps report. You can look at software delivery and operation performance. And the reason we look at software delivery and operation performance is, we have seen this for almost a decade now, that every business is predominantly dependent on software. And after the COVID era where everything is now digitized or online, this statement become like a Bible statement now. So every business is now a software business. So if you are looking at improving your business, you need to look at your SDO, which is delivery and operations goal. And the second part from the goal is around productivity. So you can look at productivity as your goal, or you can do a combination of both. Yes, I want to focus on the SDO performance, which is I want to have better technical practices, my DR recovery testing, much better change management, and shift to cloud. And from a productivity point of view, I want to use easy to use tools, better tools for internal and external search, and I want to handle and reduce my technical debt. And create a culture of psychological safety. That might be my goal. And this is really, really high level goal. Now, what does it mean when I say I want to do reduce my technical debt? What does it mean? So let's distill this information a bit in the next section. So when I'm talking about the drivers, I will talk about how does these goals can take a shape of real goal for business, right? So when you define, you can say, yeah, you want to shift towards a more cloud native environment, or by more than 30% of your application to go on cloud by so and so date. So you can have very smart and measurable goals from a business perspective for each of these areas. Then the next part is around what. So far, right, just to recap what we talked about. I know I have talked a lot about the challenges. We also talked about the business outcomes and the two categories, whether software delivery and operations performance versus productivity. Now the next is understanding where we are from an organization's point of view. So having the current operational value stream, the drivers, and a snapshot of the technology landscape. So let me just quickly take you through the value stream. I hope many of us, I'm pretty sure, are aware of value stream maps. It's a way to for the business to understand the processes and resources, and then we can identify the opportunity to eliminate waste by using certain measures. So in this example, if you see, this map is also, I have put a link there. So this is a live value stream. You can go, you can create your own copy, and then you can update this to reflect your own environment. So this is a simple example. If a customer is sending an email about an issue, once they submit this feature, how that feature or that idea or that request goes from to do to done, that is to delivered in the production and goes back to the customer. So here you can see I have this feature request goes into Confluence, and then I am measuring few items here. So first one is lead time, the total time it takes to complete a task. The second one is VA, value add time, or the process time, as others is also call it process time, how much actual time it takes. And then there is this %CA, that means the percentage of an output that is correct. And then so on and so forth. So you go from submitting request to approving the request, then developing it, deploying it to pre-prod, then completing the testing, and then doing the production deployment. Now this is a very simple value stream. You might have another value stream if you are looking at a data lake, right? So I have data, so I find raw data files, I load the files, I ingest the data, I format the data, I do the ETL, and then I get the data set, and then I submit it to the data mart. If you're doing an IoT kind of value stream, you might have, I have the sensors, I wire the sensors to these locations, to these coordinates, I trace the signals, and then this is how I deploy the signals back, and all that. So depending on your domain of work, your value stream might look very different. Right now, in an organization, one of the challenges that was on the mural was, there are many different types of technology stacks for the same thing sometimes, many different types of technology stacks for different things. So when you are doing your current value streams, when I do it with organizations, what we do is we do it for multiple different types of applications. So for, let's say, digital applications, mobile applications, web applications, and then for database applications, for data mart applications, and so on and so forth. So what it gives us is number of patterns, right? So you will have different patterns, and based on that pattern, then you can focus that, yes, I have 5 or 6 different patterns when it comes to the current value stream. Out of these 5 or 6 patterns, the first 2 or 3 patterns are covering my 90% of the work. The remaining 3 patterns is just for the 10% of the work. So you can then decide and prioritize which value stream you want to focus as part of your DevOps strategy, and what will happen to the remaining 3 or 4 patterns, and how you're going to handle it on a multi-year journey, right? So that's what is the concept around current value stream. Now, when I do it with my enterprise clients, defining your current value stream, we do workshops with all the parties involved, and it usually takes somewhere between 1 to 2 weeks to get all the different types of patterns and combinations mapped to this value stream and identify what is the lead time. This is an interesting example, by the way. If you look at here, we have total lead time of 243, total value added time is 26.08 hours. That means rollout percentage is 24% and activity ratio is 10% only. That means 90% wastage in the entire cycle. Only 10% activity ratio, and that too only 24% roll percentage CA. That means the first pass rate is only 24%. That means every time a software developer sends something to tester, 8 out of 10 times the tester finds a defect and sends it back. So first pass ratio is only 24%. That's really, really low. That means if you can just fix these 2 things, you will have significant and exponential benefit in this process. I know this is a hypothetical example, but you will find that there are much worse example in industry than this when you actually start mapping it. So with this exercise, what we are doing is we are mapping all the current value streams and the patterns we have. Now the next point is understanding the business metrics or the business outcomes. So I showed you the software delivery performance, and we talked about change management process, disaster recovery, and technical practices. When it comes to technical practices, we have few here: code maintainability, loosely coupled architecture, monitoring, trunk-based deployment, and automation of deployment. Similarly, we have CI and automation testing, and then we have culture of psychological safety. But all these things, when we talk about all of these elements, what are the business outcome we are targeting? So we are talking about profitability, we are talking about productivity, we are talking about market share, number of customers, quality of product or services. We are talking about optimization, which is operational efficiency, cost efficiency. We are talking about customer satisfaction, and we are talking about achieving the organizational goal. So these are the high level of benefits we are targeting. Now, which one is applicable to which particular case will come by when we define our drivers. So in this diagram, you see 5 drivers here that are the headings of this, and the 6th driver, which I intentionally omitted, is employee experience. So one is quality, the 2nd driver is a speed, the 3rd driver is business goal, 4th is customer experience, the 6th one is application and infrastructure performance, and the 6th one, which is missing here, is employee experience. And then these drivers are supported by certain metrics, right? So I know that quality is my driver. So then how do I know that I am going in the right direction? Is using these metrics. And this is, again, I have put down the link here in this PPT so that you can download this report. I would highly encourage you to take a look at this report. This is pretty neatly done. So let's take one example, is speed. If speed is my driver, what I'm going to measure? I'm going to measure lead time for changes. I'm going to measure speed of iteration. I'm going to measure frequency of code releases, and I'm going to measure mean time to resolution. So this 4, the driver is speed. If I'm seeing an upward trend of this, that means I'm going in the right direction. And if I have speed, what business goal does it help me with, right? So if I have more frequent code releases, I will be able to release features faster. I will be able to get feedback faster. I might have better conversion rates. I might have better growth for customer wallet, and so on and so forth. So this, in this exercise, when we are finding out the drivers and the metrics together, what it helps us, it helps creating that link between your business goals, your drivers, and your metrics. These 3 are the kind of the heart of everything that we are doing, right? So we already talk about challenges, but then when it comes to understanding how this challenge manifests into the drivers and the metrics, this is where you will find a lot of discussions with your stakeholders, where you need to align them together towards the business outcomes. Then last but not the least, and this is one of the very big exercise, generally takes few weeks to understand the overall technology portfolio. Now, when we talk about technology portfolio, what we are talking about is you have all types of servers, you have all types of applications, all types of technology stacks, and then consolidating them through maybe any discovery tool you have. So most of the companies have CMDB, their configuration management databases, where you have the state of your enterprise, list of servers, list of applications, list of websites, list of SharePoint, and all that. And getting that list and then creating a digestible view in terms of whether they are strategic or enterprise apps, whether they are non-strategic or legacy, whether they are end of life, end of support kind of applications, or net new. So why we do this is just to understand where we should focus. This helps in prioritizing for business. When you're looking at your current state, when you're looking at your desired state, and when you're looking at your current application percentage, this will help you guide the organization to where to put the investment in. Where should I invest my DevOps transformation effort? What initiative I should take as the first initiative? So that's the technology portfolio. Now, some of the principles that we have used successfully, and you can take it. So start with business outcomes, have the right people, don't rush your current state. So understand where you will maximize the benefit, focus on getting that right, and then go on to the next ones. Start small, manage dependencies and blocker, visualize everything, establish guiding principles early for each of your DevOps teams and initiatives, and have a single transformation backlog at org level. How does DevOps transformation will help you with other transformations? Have that linkage and alignment. So if you look at this, right, now we have ran through all the elements of the canvas, right? So when you put this on a single canvas, what it does is it gives you a powerful tool to systematically work through the fundamental building blocks of DevOps strategy, right? So when you look all of this on one single slide, what it helps is in one single view, I can see what my challenges are, what my business goals are, what my metrics are, what is my desired value streams are, and what is my technology portfolio at this stage, and what is my backlog elements for the transformation. So that's the power of this canvas. Now, as you can imagine, based on the steps that I have walked you through, it is few weeks worth of work that you will need to create this canvas for your own organization, and you will need more than one person to help you with this, because this information is in silos or in pockets. So to get this information and make it visible, you will need to really form that core team or a core squad who can help you build all this information and then talk through it. So this is why the DevOps strategy is a really big piece of element of effort for an organization. So in many of the cases where I have been involved, it takes around 6 weeks and a dedicated squad to get these details in here. All right, so now what I want you to do is, based on the things that we have learned today so far, right? So right from our challenges, business outcomes, current value stream, technology stakes, and so on. What I would like to encourage you all to help us, based on your knowledge and understanding, what are the things that you would like to take on in your DevOps transformation backlog? And for that, let's go back to our mural board and let's start writing what elements you would like to create. And let me just create a section here for this. Let's add this here, our backlog. So if you can add elements here, what elements you want to be part of your transformation backlog? What is that you're going to do to address these challenges and achieve business outcomes? Whatever comes to your mind. Creating a CI tool, creating a monitoring tool, or creating a team, anything that comes to your mind around what you would do in, or what you would target in your DevOps transformation backlog. And let's time it out for 4 minutes. So modernize old application to modern setup. Perfect. Okay, IAC for stage and production. Very nice. GitOps. Okay. Review the architecture to reduce manual operations. Team topologies. Very nice.
It looks like each of these backlog items could span a few months as well, right?
Absolutely, yes. Each of these backlog item can go and then have multiple other aspects. Yep, absolutely. Okay. So describe processes in written form, team topologies, interesting. Review the architecture to reduce manual operations. Okay. Very nice. So whilst you are putting these items as well, one thing to remember is each of these item, right? Generally, when we create this backlog here, and let me just quickly show you in the canvas itself. Each of this backlog, if you can see, this once we have this item, so what we do is we then prioritize this, and then we tag it with the DevOps values. Time is up, thank you. So DevOps values. So for example, migrate old application to modern setup, and then there is this deprecate legacy apps that are not required. So it's a theme around migration, right? So migration legacy apps, and then re-platform existing apps on the new technology, right? So you might have one is lift and shift, another one is rewrite or rework, right? So these two are the themes. Now when we look at this here, right, this is because you will have tons of this items when you start, and generally when you do these strategy workshops, you might have participants from not just technology, your infrastructure people, your security people, and also the business owners, right? So these themes, when we put it on the canvas, we also need to understand which value, the DevOps value, they are representing. So for example, the migration part, where will it fit? Migration part, is it mostly culture, is it automation, is it resilience, measure, or lean? What do you think, the migration bit?
Dear friends, if you have opinions, please unmute yourself and feel free to give your input here. I think your question was about legacy applications, right?
That's correct. So one of the themes is migration of the legacy application or modernization of the legacy application, right? So if that is the theme here, let's say if I create a card and say, okay, migration of legacy apps. Now this is my theme, right? So where does this theme take me? Which value does it cover? Does it cover culture? Does it cover lean? Or is it about measuring? Or is it about resilience?
I think it could be about automation, resilience, and
absolutely. So it could be about
lean.
Resilience. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that is a critical step, right? So once you have the theme, make sure you also take it with the values. Now, why we need to do this? The reason is when you take it with value, your values will also direct your business benefits, right? So you will be able to directly take it to your business benefits. Okay, why I'm doing this? Yes, I'm doing this because this will help me with the automation. I'm doing this because this will help me with the resilience. So putting these values in the backlog can help immensely when it comes to business discussions, right? So all we are trying to achieve is a common language. Now that common language is, I think we have somebody raised their hand.
Artem has a question.
Yes.
Okay, go
Hello,
ahead.
Sandeep. Hello, Sandeep. I have one question about migration of legacy app.
Yep.
You have checked automation, lean, and resilience, but I think, and I have such experience, that the most problem in this migration is transformation of the mindset of the developers. And
Absolutely. I was expecting that. Thank you for raising that. So obviously when you migrate, you also have to handle the culture bit, right? Without handling the culture, migration, because when you migrate, you also need to think through the usage of that, right? I mean, how seamlessly you're migrating, what benefit you are getting for the end user or the internal staff as well, right? The people who are actually going to use these applications. So thank you very much for raising that. Absolutely. Yes. So I think you get the hang of it now. I just wanted to show you that, when you put, so many items here. So as part of this exercise, what we do is we collect people here. We ask them to ideate and, put, so this is our Kaizen bust in a way, right? So we are putting all the elements that comes to our mind based on the challenges that we have identified, based on the desired value stream that we want. And then we list out all those items. Your items may look different. So you might say, okay, we need a new setup for monitoring tool or an integrated end-to-end tool to look at our entire lead time, right? From our business idea to production. So it might be, very different things based on where you are in your journey. And once you put this, then before you put here in the backlog, make sure you are highlighting the value. Because once you highlight the value, it is easier for the business to prioritize. Because believe me, no matter which company or which organization we talk to, you will not have unlimited amount of money or time to do everything. So prioritization is really critical and important. And this basically helps help the business in terms of prioritization. All right, so let's move forward. I would just like to end, this is the last slide in terms of explaining. So what we are seeing, and given that we're talking about a strategy, right? So when we talk about a strategy, you need to take a inside out and outside in view. And DevOps strategy is a classic example where we have looked at the current state and where we want to go, as well as what is the new trends in market and how we can embed those, right? So that is really important, especially the era that we are living in right now in this post-COVID world. We need dynamic and evolving strategies, right? So gone are the days when you can create a strategy and expect it to work for the entire year, right? So a static strategy can neither bring exponential growth nor resilience. So that's why every organization should attempt to make the strategy as a live sport, something that you keep on adopting, pivoting, and learning as you grow. So that's the most critical part when it comes to strategy, and DevOps strategy is no different. So your elements, once you have this, and that's why when I started prepping for this session, I created the mural board. The template is available to all the public. You can use the template and then you can create your own mural board from there. So keep it as a live document. Make sure that you're working on it, using it. And when you use it, you will see that why it is really important to keep it up to date and live, because things are changing on a daily basis now, not even monthly, based on where we are in our current state of, COVID, post-COVID era. So with that, I would like you to send me your stories from the field when you use this canvas for your DevOps strategy. I'm also working on a new version of this. So all your feedback, all your stories will definitely make it better, the next version. And the changes that I can bring in based on your feedback, your input. So I'm really excited to learn from all of you and make it a better world with whatever we can contribute to. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Thank you, Sandeep. It was a great presentation. Please, if you have any questions, please ask them. While you are thinking of questions, I have some myself. So about working with this canvas, so is it the intended way that we gathered challenges with stakeholders, then we, for example, pick some challenges, then drag it to the canvas, place it here, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So the way we work is, you work in this brainstorm area, you will prioritize, and then you will put the challenges in here, right? So under challenges, so if you just see, we have identified so many challenges. So for example, legacy applications, is it a people challenge, process challenge, or tools challenge? And then you will drag and drop it here. So just we want the people not to block their thinking just in people process tool. Rather, we just want it to wide open. Once everything is out on the brainstorming, then we can put them and classify them into these 3 areas. Does it make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. And what about the middle part and the leftmost part?
Absolutely. So these business goals we have talked about. So what are our business goals, right? Whether it is the performance of SDO or whether it is productivity, and what those goals are. So you can start writing your goals. Yes, to increase productivity of web apps by 10% by Q3 2020, something like that, right? So you have a date, you target, you have your clear target of what productivity you mean, or you can say increase or improve lead time for top 5 applications by X percentage. So this is just an example, again, depending on what your business goal is. Business metrics, I have shown you a very big diagram. So for these 2 drivers, so quality, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, uptime, and all that, those are drivers and underlying metrics that you want to measure. What metrics you want from that chart. So let me just quickly show that chart to you.
So we take the chart, for example, pick
so
goals, metrics from that one.
So
place
these are
it
the
here.
drivers metrics. Yes. So we pick it from here and then we will put it here in the canvas. Yeah, here, both of this, right? So drivers is quality, for example, and what I mean by quality is reduction in, say, 1 incidents. So this becomes your metrics, and this is what you are going to measure, right? So, and then some samples are here, right? So when you say quality, what does it mean? And then you can pick and choose which particular metrics you want. Clear so far?
Yes, well, it looks like when you fill up this canvas, it starts to serve as a map that you just take a look at this, and everyone start to understand what is our direction of work.
Absolutely. This is all about alignment, right? So when you fill in all these details, the reason we haven't filled it because this is in 1 hour, it's hardly possible to fill even 1 or 2 sections. So that's what we tried. So we tried with challenges and our backlog. But to really do justice to this, you need few days worth of work just to get the crux of it. But you're absolutely right? So here I showed you some principles that I have used in past. So these are some of the principles that you can start with if you don't want to reinvent the wheel. Or if you have your own principles, you can also use it. So what basically this helps is here, when they come here and then they want to buy a new tool for the new value stream, if you're saying you start with reuse, repurpose where possible. If that's my principle, that means I'm not really willing to buy new tools, right? Unless absolutely necessary. Yeah. So it also drives the behaviors that I'm looking forward for. I talked about the snapshot. So this one is the snapshot piece, right? So once you have your technology state, you will generally have these 6 categories, and you will have number of applications or percentage, very high level. You don't need to fill in all the details here. What we are looking at it, okay, what percentage of my applications are strategic or customer facing, and how many? So you might see, okay, so here I have strategic, and then I will say, okay, all I have is around 60% of my applications, which is 490. So a percentage and a number. So I clearly know that, okay, where I stand from my technology landscape point of view. Okay. Then when you go and then do the value stream mapping, which is this, so you will have 5 or 6 different patterns from here, right? Because this is just one pattern for Java application. You might have one for Ruby on Rails, or you might have one for IoT. So you might have, let's assume 6 or 7 patterns. So here in the current value stream, we will say here, yes, I have one for web into 4. So I have 4 patterns for web. I have 2 patterns for mobile, one for iOS, one for Android, or I might have just one pattern for mobile. So something like that.
Oh,
right?
so you just put references here. You don't need to draw the actual.
No, yeah. So you will draw this on actual board, and then you will reference them from here, from your yeah. So then people. So this one we are trying to give everything on one single page to everybody, right? So they say, okay, so I have 4 web value streams. Let me see what it is, and if I need to see, I will just link it to that particular page or board, and I would be able to see it from there. Same with the desired one, right? So and then once all this is filled, you have your canvas ready. Does it give you a fair idea now?
You can take it, create, I don't know, epics or user stories or whatever.
From here,
track and plan back on that.
Absolutely. From here, once you create your backlog, so whenever you open this, strategy canvas later, right? So anybody reads it, they have clear idea around, okay, what we are trying to solve, where we were, where we want to be, and how we are going there, right? So the what, why, and how part, right? All the 3 things combined together.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the parts, yeah. You said about it at the very start that this you have 3 parts, and those are actually covered here in this canvas.
Absolutely, yes. So you have 3 parts, and those are all covered here in canvas. So all the 9 elements that I have shown on my slide deck, right? So all the 9 elements here when I started. Yeah. So we have challenges and business outcomes. We have these 3 elements and the remaining 4. So total 9 elements, all of them are mapped in here in the canvas.
And does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Artem, go ahead.
It's me again. It's not kind of question. I just would like to say thank you very much because it is very correlates the approach that I have used in this year for some kind of other project. I have used such approach for technical debt project. Technical debt and technical transformations, but it was much more into not so formalized. I mean, not so formalized. So this is a great tool for me to make more determinative and formalized representation of what we doing and what for we are doing this. And this is a great tool, I think. So again, thank you very much for this.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you found it useful, and do share with me your story whenever you get some time. If you use this tool, tell me how you used it, what you found most useful, and then I might be able to create more videos for explanation. So we are just getting started with this, as we know.
Right.
But yeah, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions on the chat, or anybody? You can unmute yourself and then ask.
Есть у кого-нибудь вопросы? No questions?
No questions. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe people will watch the recording video and send them to you. I don't know.
No worries. Absolutely. Yeah. So
Could you please share your slides for this talk? I think we don't have them yet.
Yeah. I'll share the slide deck. And once again, thank you, everyone. You can always reach me at contact@sandeepmvp.com, my website. And thank you for having me, and thank you for this session. I hope it was useful use of your time.
Thank you very much for giving a talk, for explaining us this tool. It sounds great, and I think many of us will definitely use it in our work.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.